Hi and welcome to the Homeopathy Health Show. I'm Atiq Ahmad Bhatti, a fourth generation homeopath with over 25 years of professional experience and practice in this field of healing. The Homeopathy Health Show is the online voice of homeopathy around the world, promoting and raising awareness of this truly unique system of healing, which is suitable for all ages, young and old. Every week I invite guests from the world of homeopathy to come and share their experiences, their work, offer insights, and essentially talk all things homeopathy. Why not visit www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast button to listen to the latest episodes. So let's begin today's show here on UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio. Hi and welcome to another episode of the Homeopathy Health Show here on the UK Health Radio Network, and I am your co-host, Atiq Ahmad Bhatti.
And I'm Naila Cheema. Welcome.
Naila's the other co-host, okay? You're supposed to say that. Start that one again. You're going to say, and I'm the other co-host. How can you forget that? Come on.
I don't want to say. If I'm presenting, I am the co-host or host or whatever they call it.
Well, I can't be the host. Okay, let's change it slightly.
Okay. All right.
That's a blooper.
Scratch my nose while you're
yeah, I have to be serious because once I get into this, it's like a cough. I can't stop.
No,
Okay.
you don't have to stop me.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Homeopathy Health Show. Yes, indeed, I'm very, very happy. Welcome to another episode of the Homeopathy Health Show here on the UK Health Radio Network, and I'm Atiq Ahmad Bhatti.
And I'm your co-host, Naila Cheema.
Woohoo! So we have an absolutely wonderful episode today. Our guest today is Dr. Cathy May Lemmon, and she is a distinguished international homeopath, educator, and passionate advocate for homeoprophylaxis, and we are going to talk about that a lot today. She has over 2 decades of clinical experience, and Dr. Lemmon has been at the forefront of promoting safe, natural disease prevention across the globe. She's the founder of Homeoprophylaxis, a worldwide choice, which is an initiative that has brought together professionals, policymakers, and the public through international conferences in the United States, Europe, and India. And she has lectured extensively, publishing in leading journals, and continues to inspire both practitioners and parents with the commitments to holistic, non-toxic healthcare. Now, she is the author of the book, The Prophylactic Use of Homeopathic Medicine, which I have a copy of, by the way. I just wanted to put that in there, okay?
And I'm getting a signed one.
Oh, go on then. Hey, that's what we discussed just before this episode went live. But hey, without further ado, on behalf of myself and Naila, Dr. Cathy May Lemmon, welcome with open arms to the Homeopathy Health Show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very much an honor to be here. I appreciate your taking the time to have me on.
Honor is all ours.
Absolutely. And it's so nice to it's so refreshing, isn't it? How, even though I know we're on Zoom, but when you finally see somebody virtually face to face, it so breaks the ice, right? It's funny how that works. And nowadays, with people moving away from the online platform more and more, because, you know, it's heavy, right? It's so nice to meet people physically, isn't it? And when you do meet them, there's those few seconds, isn't it, that you think, is that real? Is that person actually real? And, you know, they look at you and you look at them, and it's that not uncomfortable, it's that weird feeling, isn't it?
Yes.
Those few seconds, right?
Meeting them live, but not really meeting them physically. But yes, you're meeting them physically. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the day and age that we're in.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it, Naila? That happens like a lot.
I'm actually thinking about various situations where this actually happened. Like, okay, this person looks completely different to what they have looked there.
Yeah.
Or the energy is totally different when you're meeting them physically. Or sometimes the energy is profound, actually, and you can build that warm connection that can be that will be with you for the whole life. That is what makes it. Doesn't matter. However, the world is getting smaller, but the physical connection is the physical one.
Yeah, and also I think what's quite funny here is sometimes you do meet people and they don't nothing like their picture, and you think, hang on a minute, you're trying to get your mobile phone out, and you're thinking, this, hang on a minute. No, I had a
Oh,
shave. I had a shave. That's why. Hang on a minute. That was some big shave you've had, you know. But hey, Dr. Cathy, we have a lot to talk about, especially to do with homeoprophylaxis. Now, for those who do not know, and there will be many indeed, on what homeoprophylaxis means, please do give us the lowdown on that.
sure. The lowdown on homeoprophylaxis. Basically, it's like the title of my book. It's the prophylactic use of homeopathic medicines. And there's a lot that I feel is very important to understand when you're looking at its prophylactic use. There's a lot of misunderstandings about it, a lot of assumptions that have been made. And this is just something that history is something that means a lot to me. You don't truly appreciate what you have today unless you understand where it came from. And I love homeopathic medicine, and I've got so many books all over the place on it too that I just love reading. And it's very, very interesting to look at the life of Samuel Hahnemann and how it was in 1799 that he came across how effective homeopathic medicines worked as a prophylactic. Now, something that I've been counseled on, and I work to keep this a part of my practice too, is that homeopathic medicine does not, and this was an attorney who told me this, does not diagnose, treat, cure, prevent, or mitigate any conventionally labeled disease or condition. So that's something to keep at the foundation, I feel, when you're looking at homeoprophylaxis, when you're looking at, again, the prophylactic use of homeopathic medicine, because this is what Hahnemann got into when it was 1799, and this is something that's covered, and I'll just pull out this book here, his lesser writings. One of the works in there talks about the cure and prevention of scarlet fever. He was asked to go to the German town of Königslutter in 1799 because there was an outbreak that began of the very contagious scarlet fever. And he had successfully worked at stemming off infections of it and epidemics of it in other places. So he was asked to please come there. And the interesting story, I find it very interesting to look at it, is he, you read in his organon, what he shares in his organon, we're not a cookie cutter approach in homeopathy. We go by the individually presenting symptoms. And this is how Hahnemann always worked. But what he did, knowing that there are similar symptoms that happen in outbreaks of what's called scarlet fever. And so he judged by, he made an assessment of what he had used in previous outbreaks / epidemics. And he brought those two to Königslutter. They included the two remedies of opium and ipecacuanha. And he just said, you know what, let's start with those. And so he came to Königslutter and he started evaluating the principles, the predominant, the prevailing, the symptoms that were manifesting themselves. And he realized quickly, as he always was, he was so meticulous in all his notes. He said, no, neither of these remedies are going to work. But I think homeopathic belladonna just might. And so he came across a young girl who was very, very sick with the scarlet fever. He gave this to her. And within about 24 hours, she was up and playing, running around just like a little girl will do. And he thought, well, that's very interesting. But then he came to another family with 9 children or so, and about 5 of them had come down with the scarlet fever. But he noticed one girl in this family who, and he notes this specifically in his lesser writings, this girl was always the first to come down with an outbreak of a disease. But she didn't have it. And guess what was happening with her? She was taking belladonna as a remedy for it. And all he says is an affection of the fingers. He doesn't get into, the details about that, but that's not important. But Hahnemann thought, I wonder if there might be a connection that, well, she had several other siblings who hadn't yet caught the scarlet fever. And so, scientist that he was, Hahnemann took the belladonna and treated her other siblings just because, well, maybe there might be something there. Well, guess what? They did not come down with the scarlet fever. And yeah, that led Hahnemann to say, let's treat the whole town. And he stopped the infection right there, the epidemic.
Amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. And I love to share his words here.
Please do.
Who can deny that the perfect prevention of infection from this devastating scourge, talking specifically about scarlet fever, but knowing that he was a scientist, I'm sure he was thinking about other things as well too, that the perfect prevention of infection from this devastating scourge and the discovery of a means whereby this divine aim may be surely attained would offer infinite advantages over any mode of treatment, be it of the most incomparable kind soever. In my interpretation of that, that's basically saying prevention is better than cure. Hahnemann came across this in 1799. It led him, his followers, even then. He says, you've got to know about this. Constantine Hering took up this idea, and it was about 1830 that Hering came up with the first nosode. And guess what? The first nosode was, listen, potentized rabid dog saliva. And why did he develop that? Because he was thinking, well, that might be a good, something good to prevent rabies. What do we have today? You know, you look at how much the nosode, how effective that is. The nosode is not the only thing to be used prophylactically, of course, but it can be used very effectively as a prophylactic. So it expanded on this. It changed the way, it refined, let me say that way, it refined the way that homeopathy was studied and utilized by Hahnemann and his colleagues even then. And so it is always, in my opinion, homeoprophylaxis has been an integral part of homeopathy from its very foundations.
You know, that's the absolute beauty, isn't it, of homeopathy, that, you know, I can say quite unequivocally, as a fourth generation homeopath, it's a complete system. It's an absolutely complete system. Okay, you haven't got just acutes and chronics. You've got prophylaxis, prevention, like you said, is so much better than cure. You know, and that's so important. Just imagine, we have 600 million people around the world using homeopathy at the moment, second largest system on the planet outside of conventional medicine, millions more, herds going towards homeopathy. Just imagine what the world would be like, right, if that went to 50%. Let's just imagine that, right? And what you could do, not only to save money, to save the planet, but what you can do for yourself, right? What you can do about your health.
Absolutely.
And what's interesting, somebody recently said something really, which always stuck with me, is that one of the reasons, and we're not going there in that sense with what I'm going to say, but it's just like a thought for the day. The reason perhaps homeopathy cannot or is not so well received is because you can't patent nature. How can you patent something growing on the side of a road or up a hill? Yeah, or, you know, how can you, a bush, you know, a fauna, plants? It's not possible, right? And that's interesting, isn't it? When you look at it from a very different angle, it's like, it's interesting because the potential is there. How is all the synthesis done, right? It's through botanical studies, right? Healing properties. So, hello, you know, it's interesting, isn't it? I just thought I wanted to throw that in there. What do you think?
I would like to add into it. She mentioned Hahnemann looked at the whole family and only one girl didn't develop symptoms. Now, just imagine in today's world, no one is going to believe on it. Coincidence, not happening. Yeah. Just by one example. How can you say this by just seeing one person? But he was a deep thinker, and he took it and he then did this experiment on his own family. No one is taking these risks nowadays. There is, I get very passionate about it. There is no harm in trying. If you are thinking this can help, why not try? Just give it a try. We try so many things from the supermarket, like the new drinks that come out. Every child is trying it out in the school. Why not just give it a try? And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Give it a try.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's such a in my opinion, too, when you look at, common medicine today, you look at fear. People are so afraid of everything. But when you look at homeopathy and its roots, you look at, you pour through the organon. Hahnemann didn't look for what could cause a disease. Certainly you need to know certain things. You've got to use common sense. But what Hahnemann wanted to find, like with the Belladonna and the scarlet fever, he wanted to find what would cure it, what would prevent it. That's what would promote health. That's what's at the basis of homeopathic medicine.
It's what's really fascinating, Cathy, is the fact that over 200 years ago, despite that onslaught, despite all those attacks against Dr. Christian Frederick Samuel Hahnemann, boy, that was one tough cookie, okay? Because his love for humanity, his love for God, his understanding, his compassion, and his resilience. Anyone else would have given up, right? But it took that one man through thick and thin. I mean, come on, he went through a tornado, several actually, and he still stuck with the principles. And look at us 200 and odd years ago, and let's look at it another 200 years when, in the future, when homeopathy will, God willing, be, dominant.
Yes.
I'm so sorry, but I just want to add something to it so that you can answer this alongside, because he is doing that, and then you are working with the homeoprophylaxis. So how did your journey then went to it? Would like to know that as well.
I'm the mother of 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. My baby is my daughter, but my baby is going to be 27 this year. And so I've been mothering for a few years. My second son was diagnosed with autism shortly before his 3rd birthday. And that happened at a time, it coincided with the beginning of my homeopathic studies, but there was also a rising voice about a possible connection between autism and the conventional approach to disease prevention. And I thought, no, that's not the case, because I would never do anything to hurt my children. I'm doing everything right. I just, what did I know? But I just decided I would ignore him. But then I kept hearing it. I kept hearing it. And so I finally decided that I would need to do my own research. And so in doing this, I don't do IT very, very well, but my husband is an IT expert. He helped me put a search together. This was pre-Google days, so he knew what to do. And so I used 2 terms, the word immunization and the word alternative. What a novel idea. Who would have thought this? And that was when I first came across a gentleman by the name, and you probably heard of him. He helped me. He wrote the preface to my book, Dr. Atiq Golden, down in Australia. He's a wonderful man, and he is very, very, he's been researching homeoprophylaxis since 1986. And homeoprophylaxis is technically what my PhD is in as well, too. He told me that I'm the second person on the planet to have a PhD in it. So, but in any case, I came across Dr. Golden and the work that he had been doing. He had just published his book at the time, and I was just reading what he had experienced, what he was noting. He's very into numbers, and I was just thinking, why doesn't the world know about this? I wanted to dance on the rooftops. I wanted to say, look, you don't have to worry. There's a safe and very effective way, to prevent disease, to prevent the symptoms of disease. It's right here, and it's proven. It's been in use. But of course, one thing led to another. And of course, we'd had no money at the time when my children were that young. And so I had to put it on the back burner, but I kept researching. I kept looking into things. And so I have a lot of notes that I've taken through the years. And it was around, the early 2012 or so that I was able to connect directly with Atiq Golden. And he helped me with my son, whose name is Joshua. And Joshua today is doing remarkably well. I'm very pleased. I'm very optimistic for his future. But then that was also at the time that I decided that, the world does need to know about this, because I was, homeopath then. And so that's when I began my organization called Homeoprophylaxis, a Worldwide Choice for Disease Prevention, or HPWWC. And I put together the first international conference that took place right in the area where I live, Dallas, Texas. And Isaac Golden was our keynote speaker. It was so well attended and well received. And I was just so excited about it. We had attorneys speak. We had several people from all over speaking. It was even recorded. But in any case, I was so impressed with how that went. I decided, it's got to continue. And so the next one took place in the Netherlands. And then after that, the most recent one, which so interestingly took place in January of 2020, that took place in New Delhi, India. And so it's just, this is what people are wanting. Every time it's been presented, it's been very, very well received, because people haven't realized, to this day, I just spoke with someone just the other day who wants to get going with homeoprophylaxis. She had no idea that there was any sort of a choice, but there is. It's a very effective choice, and it's been in use for more than 200 years.
Oh, brilliant, amazing. That is one journey actually that you have had. It's it's sometimes amazing just to know how a person has reached where they are today and what they have gone through, because for us maybe it's just 5 minutes or 10 minutes of hearing, but when you were doing that, when you were looking at the evidence, when you're looking at this and you're making those connections, that in itself is we are very grateful to you for what you do.
Thank you.
To Dr. Isaac Golden as well, because these are the things that our society nowadays need.
Absolutely.
Really grateful. And we would also like to know more about how is this research taken by homeopaths all around the world.
Yeah, just before you say that, that's very, very beautifully put, Naila, actually. And thank you. Again, it's so nice, isn't it, to be able to give back, right? In our own unique ways.
Absolutely.
And, that's all. I don't want to add, because Naila said everything, but just had to add a little bit, right?
Yeah. It's just, knowledge is for sharing. And what, I know what I know, and I love to share what I share.
Yeah.
And I love, I've presented about it all over the place. It's not always well received, but I can't help that. I present to enough people who are very interested in it. I've helped people travel the world with homeoprophylaxis. It's not just for children. It's for anybody looking for something to strengthen their vital force and this is part of what I like to work to do too, is help people understand how this is seen homeopathically. Hahnemann's definition of health, aphorism 9 talks about where he says, aphorism 9, that the reasoning spirit who inhabits the organism can freely use this healthy living instrument to reach the lofty goal of human existence. Just that idea. This is what homeoprophylaxis, I feel, is built on. Lessening of the body's susceptibility. When you think of what disease prevention is all about, and when you think of the homeopathic approach for disease prevention, first of all, you have to, in my opinion, you have to understand homeopathically what happens when you have diseases, when you have, certain diseases, like Hahnemann talks often about smallpox. He talks about measles. Those are certain diseases that have consistent symptomatic pictures. And so we can call them by their labels. This is what smallpox looks like. This is what scarlet fever looks like. This is what measles looks like with its rash. But you still have to be cautious and take in the individually presenting symptom picture. But it also brings in the idea of the genus epidemicus, which Hahnemann never used that term, but it's a very good term to use because of what it means, And Hahnemann, again, like I said earlier, Hahnemann He wanted more to look into what is making the body healthy rather than what makes it sick, because sickness is an internal thing. So let's go look internal and look at what the body, what's going to keep it well, and let's build on that. And that's why in my book, I've got the appendix at the end where I have many diseases, not all, there's too many of them, and what's been shown to be effective prophylactically as a remedy, and what's been shown to be effective as a nosode for those diseases. I don't get into specific approaches because there's not one cut and dry way to utilize homeoprophylaxis. I've got homeoprophylactic training for practitioners. Atiq has homeoprophylactic training for practitioners. It's something I don't want people to look at this like it's just something out of a Cracker Jack box or something. I want people to appreciate the serious homeopathic medicine that its prophylactic use is.
Can you give us, I'm so sorry to cut you, but thinking deep into it, to understand it more, can you maybe give us an example of maybe chickenpox that is so common? If we have to use remedies prophylactically, what would we do? What do we look at? What is it?
Sure. Well, you would look at the presenting symptoms, and it's interesting to consider chickenpox because when you look at its heart, chickenpox, smallpox, cowpox, they all have very similar symptoms. So basically what's going to work for one is going to work very well for another. And it's kind of a different thing to grasp hold of when you look at the prophylactic use. And you know what, let me get this out because I don't have this whole list memorized. That's why I wrote it down. But when you look at, I do have chickenpox here. There's the varicillinum, the nosode that will work very well for that, but also remedies which include antimonium crudum. Let me say it correctly, antimonium crudum, and rose tea even can work for prophylaxis against it. Basically, and this is something that I find, and I do want to be sure to get on too, Robert Ellis Dudgeon, R.E. Dudgeon, that we all know in homeopathy because he did so much work. I have a compilation of his lectures, a bunch of lectures that he presented in 1853. And in this, I will encourage you to get it. Here's my copy of it. Yeah, like I said, I have a ton of books. Here's my copy of it.
Hey, for those who are listening to this audio version, I'm so sorry. We are so sorry. But Cathy was showing us the books. So, hey, we'll share them nearer the time with you, and you can have a look as well. And do go and purchase one if you can.
Yes, I would very much encourage that. But one of the things, one of the lectures in this collection that I've got of his, that I will encourage everyone to have a copy of as well too, he's got a lecture on prophylaxis. And in this lecture, he talks specifically about how the common medicine of his time, they weren't interested. Basically, they had smallpox from Edward Jenner, but there was no follow-up for nearly 100 years. Why weren't they interested in medicinal prophylaxis? He said they simply weren't. Whereas he points out how the prophylactic use of homeopathic medicine is part and parcel for homeopathy, for any homeopath, or as he says, a homeopathist. But he says what leads a homeopath to a remedy should also lead him, a remedy for treatment should also lead him to a remedy for prophylaxis. He says it in that many words in this lecture here. It's that much a part of homeopathic medicine. It's why I came up with this line to couple along with the similia similibus curentur. Like cures like, there's similes impedit, like prevents like. It was Arthur Grimmer in, I have a recording of his, well, it's an article that he wrote back in 1949. He was president of the American Institute of Homeopathy and another international group I'm not remembering the name of right now, but he said, as effectively as homeopathy works to heal, it works even more so when it comes to prevention. It's so important to understand this.
Yeah. I was going to say, as you were saying that, I was just thinking, why during the time of Hahnemann until about 1950, let's say, okay, circa, why was everything so natural, right? Natural remedies and holistic healing and everything. Could it be, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Could it be because it was unadulterated? And I use that very carefully, that word. I don't mean anything too drastic by it, but the fact that there was this real intention to help and heal. Now, that doesn't mean that intention is not there now, certainly not. But from the natural perspective I'm talking about, let's use what we have around us. Let's use nature, because everything is in nature, right? You can get everything in nature. It's there. It's been given to us on a silver platter. It's free. We all have access to it, right? Like I said near the beginning of the conversation, we can't patent nature. How can you do that?
Right.
It's interesting, the thought process that took place at that time, and we're talking about prophylaxis, and we're talking about, treatment, subsequent treatment as well, and how we are now. That was very proactive. Now it's very reactive, dare I say it.
Okay. Well, yeah, let me the best way, I think, to address what you're bringing up, I feel, is to have a bigger understanding. What we have today in medicine is unlike Hahnemann, because we have the electron microscopes and all the things that see the little tiny itty bitty things. We can't, I have to laugh because we have to have things scientifically proven. But what is science today? Something doesn't work unless you can explain it. No, I will go back, and let me bring this up too, because I talk about this all the time, and I'm going to bring up again. This is the Organon of Medicine, Aphorism 1. We are not so alone today, because it was kind of messed up in Hahnemann's time as well. They didn't have the electron microscopes, etc. then, but they still had a whole lot of things that were kind of messed up. This is aphorism number 1. The physician's highest calling, his only calling, is to make the sick people healthy, to heal, as it is termed. Guess what? Aphorism 1 goes on from there, and this is what we don't get into as much, and it's something that I think everybody needs to understand, to understand that it was messed up in Hahnemann's time too. This is what he shares. He says, this is further on in Aphorism 1, it is not, as far as the physician's highest calling, it is not to weave so-called systems from fancy ideas and hypotheses about the inner nature of the vital processes and the origin of diseases in the invisible interior of the organism, on which so many fame-seeking physicians have wasted their powers and time, nor does it consist of trying endlessly to explain disease phenomena and their proximate cause, which will always elude him. Nor does it consist of holding forth in unintelligible words or abstract and pompous expressions in an effort to appear learned so as to astonish the ignorant, while the world in sickness cries in vain for help. Surely by now we have had enough of these pretentious fantasies called theoretical medicine, for which university chairs have been established, and it is time for those calling themselves physicians to stop deceiving poor human beings by their talk and to start acting instead. That is really helping and healing.
These are really nice words from Hahnemann, and I think we, in nowadays, even if we have to say this, we have to change the language.
Right.
Right. He was so direct in what he wanted to say. We have to, change different tone and language. But I do want to make it a bit understandable for the audience who are not homeopaths and who may have kids, and why do they need to purchase the book and use prophylactic medicine for their children. I go back again to my example of chickenpox. For example, if we are looking at there is a chickenpox outbreak in the class. 1 or 2, 3 children have come up with chickenpox. What do the parents or the practitioner needs to know or needs to think about before administering any remedy, looking at a picture, or anything? You are an expert. You can tell us.
Well, okay. As far as what to do if there's a chickenpox outbreak, is that what you're asking?
Yes, as an example.
Okay. Well, what I tell people a lot today is, number one, like measles is a recent outbreak too.
Yeah.
Chickenpox, measles, even mumps, they are not major diseases. They are very mild diseases which offer some incredible lifelong benefits. And for this, I work to assure them to do what they can to keep their child healthy if they come down with the chickenpox or measles or whatever it is. Observe them, watch them, and most of the parents who contact me are very observant of their children, and I compliment them. I want parents to feel good about who they are, about these children that they have. I tell them often, your children are very blessed that you're their mother. I love to see that. And yeah, so when chickenpox comes into play, I tell them to watch them, keep them clean, help them to just be as comfortable as they can. If there's something that concerns you, mom or dad, please, pay attention to that. Let me know. As a homeopath, I'll do what I can to help you. But let the disease run its course. If your child comes down with it, let it run its course. Be glad that it's running its course. Encourage your children not to itch those spots. But yeah, let it run its course, because these diseases are here to help us. And we are not, this is something I have to say a lot too, we are not healthy if we never get sick. That's part of what it's all about.
That is such a that is the key, right? How do you train your immune system? You can't just not train it, right? It's a natural phenomena of being human. So
Absolutely.
That's a nail on the head. You have to have pathogens, right? They're already here, right? God knows what else is in this room, in my room, and your room, and Naila's room.
My room, yes. Yeah? Absolutely.
And if someone comes to me and says, "Oh, I never get sick," so with pride, and I would, oh my God, what to do now?
what to do now? Yeah.
And this happens especially to the patient who usually need carcinosin as a remedy. And oh my God, I have had patients after that they develop that fever or that acute that was waiting and was not coming.
Yeah. Well, and too, and I haven't said this about myself too, we live on a farm. We've got farm animals, chickens, ducks, goats, and even a few donkeys.
Oh, lucky you.
We love our farm. We love our farm.
That's one of my dreams, honestly. I say it all the time. I just want to move to the countryside. Probably a couple of chickens will be enough for me,
Sure.
Wake up in the morning and just smell the air, right?
Oh yes. And when I was sick, because I'm just getting over an illness, I work to spend as much time outside as I can, because there's so much good out there. And I look, and this is something too to make sure is noted, that homeoprophylaxis, the prophylactic use of homeopathic medicines, works for animals. It works for plants. It's not just for humans. We use it on our dogs and all of our animals as needed, because it's how homeopathy works.
This reminds me of the news I was reading a few months back. There's a mosquito-borne blackbird disease, and we have to watch for the blackbirds in our garden if we have them as visitors.
Sure. Well, and what I would insert with this too is, as a homeopath, pay attention to the exhibiting symptoms that happen with anybody that's diagnosed with this blackbird disease, and that way you can use it as a prophylactic. Just to be safe.
Brilliant, amazing.
Yeah.
Everyone, go and buy the book.
Yeah. Well, you're okay. You're going to get an autographed copy.
Oh, I'm so happy about it.
I'm excited to get it to
autographed. Mine's not autographed, but hey, it's okay. Well, we got you on the show as well.
I'll give you a photocopy of that. I'll give you a photocopy of that page.
I'm sorry?
I'll give you a photocopy of that autograph page.
Oh.
Well, thanks.
Well, I'll happily come back over to the UK and
Oh,
do book signing
Hey,
there or something.
are you over later this year?
I could be. I'm
Oh,
not.
okay. That'd be nice. We can meet up and maybe we can do a live Instagram.
5
years. I
years.
think maybe you need to do a next one in UK.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Give me an idea where a good place would be, and we can work on it.
Hey, we have some ideas actually.
Okay.
This is going to be good. This is interesting. Yeah,
Absolutely.
We'll go there. But
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen, this is how the best decisions happen live on air. Okay.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, if you have I think we're at the end of the show, sadly. It's my God, I was just saying time's flown by. I mean,
Wow.
I didn't even realize it's so.
I'm only getting going.
But it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And I think, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we come back on in maybe just late summer and let's talk about some of the key remedies specifically. So I think, Naila, let's make this part 1. Yeah, with Dr. Cathy, and let's have part 2 about homeopathic prophylaxis, which will be about specific remedies. Yeah, so Belladonna or Natmi or some of the nosodes, and let's see where that takes us. I think that will be quite informative and educational for listeners.
I also think that nowadays nosodes can be so helpful with what layers we are carrying with us, and that would be a very helpful topic to just explore and let people know how they work and how they do it. They're very important part of my practice, actually.
It certainly can be. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can maybe look into that.
Yeah, it's been an absolute honor, Dr. Cathy May Lemmon, to have you on.
Thank you.
We're really thrilled, and it's just so nice to meet you. And hey, we are going to talk very soon indeed. I know it's becoming a bit of my catchphrase, but we are going to indeed talk very, very soon.
Okay. Sounds fantastic. The pleasure's been mine.
Our passes so quickly. I've been delighted to be sitting here talking to you.
Well,
thank you to be our guest on our show. Absolutely.
Thank you. I've loved it. It's been wonderful. So thank you both very, very much.
And we'll talk to you very, very soon indeed.
Okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so watch out for that one. We're going to have part 2 soon, and we'll have much more information for you. So that's us for the Homeopathy Health Show. Thank you, over and out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Homeopathy Health Show. Please do support the show by clicking follow on my socials. Remember, the more exposure the podcast receives, the better for homeopathy around the world. You can find me on Instagram by searching for @like_treatslike, and on both Facebook and TikTok by searching for @like_treatslike. So let's promote the voice of homeopathy on radio and podcast around the world together. Don't forget to visit me online at www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast tab. Here you'll be able to see all the guests that have joined me on the show so far, and of course you can stream on demand the latest episode to your mobile, tablet or PC. Until next time, stay safe and take care.